Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli. Welcome to my October 2019 horoscope report for you. It is my intention with this video to give you what you'll need to make the most of the stars this month. There will be challenges, and I will offer information on how you can make the most of those, and there will be sweet spots, and I will give you all the things that you need to make the most of those. So definitely also check out anniehelpsyou.com for more free resources and all kinds of other things to help you on your starry journey. If you are in resonance with how I teach and you want to learn, then you can also check out at anniehelpsyou.com my astrology apprenticeship program. Definitely go to radicalprayerbook.com to check out my new book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days, which is a book of radical prayers and affirmations that will help you create the life of your dreams. It is an Amazon bestseller, and it is a beloved companion to my fellow spiritual seekers, or so I have heard from many people. So what is in the stars for you this month? Hello Pisces friends, welcome to my October 2019 horoscope report for you. October is a very interesting month because it's kind of divided into two parts. The first part is from the beginning through around October 12th, which is the end of that open period that we had starting in the middle of August for launches and clarity and pushing forward, a time when the tides were going out, where you can push your boat out and make it off the island because the tides are bringing the energies out into the world. Now, around October 12th, we start this descent into the pre-shadow period of Mercury retrograde. I don't fear Mercury retrograde. I don't want you to fear it. I don't think it's a bad transit. It's just a transit that brings certain things with it. It has certain qualities. And those qualities have to do with going in, redoing, rethinking, and really focusing on the past as it relates to the present, thinking about it as it relates to the future, but really calling everything in to just reconsider it, redo it, and wrap up loose ends. So every day as we march past October 12th and get towards October 31st, when Mercury actually goes retrograde, we are moving into this, it's kind of like you're moving into a cave, where at first you're moving in and you can see the sunlight behind you, and the deeper you get, the less you can see the sunlight behind you, and the more you don't know what day it is, you don't know what time it is, you're going inside of yourself and bringing things, dealing with things very close to you, like not pushing out over there, moving closer inward. Okay, so that's the general climate that we're walking into this month. This month has some really sweet aspects, especially from October 15th through October 25th. We've got just a string of awesomeness. And since those energies are getting deeper into the retrograde, that's bringing blessings from the past. Things that you've done before, things you've been working on can come through in a wonderful way. While I don't love the retrograde times for launches, unless you have some clear intuition or something in your chart that's saying otherwise, which does happen because individual charts can conflict with general transits. But it's more of a time when things you've already done can start to roll in without your having to force it. I always call the retrograde times the time of having woven your web, like you're the spider, and whether it's eclipse time, which we just kind of got through, we're out of that realm now, or retrograde time, right? So eclipse time and retrograde time, I always bring back this imagery of the spider, where you've spent the time weaving your web. So like specifically even from the middle of August through close to the middle of October, you're weaving, you're building, you're creating, you're launching, doing all this stuff. And then now, as we get deeper into October, it's that time to see what you catch in your web and let your food come to you. There's going to be a massive theme specifically for Pisces this month that has to do with yourself and other people. There are some long-term themes that have been happening for Pisces on these fronts, but the energies of where the planets are moving in the chart, specifically through the 7th and 8th houses. And this is true whether you're an early, middle, or late degree placement, because those personal planets are moving through the 7th and 8th houses, which have to do with your relationships with other people, the actual other people, and the way you relate to them. Also has to do with resources. So like you and the bank, you and the student loan people, you and your parents, you and your spouse, you and your family inheritance money, you and your company, you and your venture capitalist connections. Anything having to do with you and these other resources or other people are going to be strongly highlighted this month, because There are oppositions of the personal planets, which are the ones closest to us. We call them personal planets. So the sun, the moon, Mercury, Mars. There are going to be a lot of energies of those personal planets that are going to be opposing Uranus. The planet Uranus is the planet of surprises, also a planet of activation, of sudden ideas, of sudden awarenesses and breakthroughs. So every planet, every placement, every sign has a spectrum of potential manifestation from lowest to highest. People, humans, are tending to manifest along the unconscious route because so much is in our psyche that we're not aware of. But the more we add the light of consciousness to the inner psyche and combine and integrate those places, the more we can be more conscious manifestors in our lives. And as we're moving along that process, the planet Uranus brings things out of the blue. So this month, your section of your money, okay, this also really has to do with your individual financial self-sufficiency. It has to do with your individual emotional self-sufficiency versus the other people in your life, like how other people have helped you, what relationship you have to them. Inevitably, when planets are lining up like this, as they are for you, this really strongly brings in this story of codependency. Codependency is a term that was coined and really made, given its definition, by Alcoholics Anonymous or other Substance Abusers Anonymous. Those were the addicts, okay? And then the codependent was the person who was in relationship with the addict. So that's how, you know, the craziness that goes on when you're in a relationship with people who have addictions, or if you have addictions in your relationship with that. That's how the energy of codependency has kind of come out. But my definition of codependency is that it's a boundary disease or a boundary opportunity. And humans come in, I believe, with this opportunity to work with the topic of boundaries, where we set too many boundaries, where we block things out and don't receive and don't connect, where we don't set enough boundaries, where we get taken advantage of and we get, dripped or stretched thin. So my definition of the energy of codependency is what's going to be really highlighted this month, because as the energies in the partnership signs come in conflict with the energy and the house of your individuality and your storyline and how you feel in your own skin, those are going to be coming up in a big way. Now, in combination with that, this storyline of how you relate to authority figures, when we're little, we learn we have to ask before we do things. And in many ways, that's appropriate as a child because we don't really know any better. You know, we have an inner authority that definitely doesn't get honored, which is a whole other story. But we have this like asking for permission, this, not trusting our own inner guidance. And as we get older and aren't children anymore, that project of finding discernment, where we have to ask, where we don't have to ask, who to ask, and when, gets brought up as major themes of our lives. And this month, because of the squares of the personal planets to the planet Pluto, to the planet Saturn, to even the transiting South Node, all of these three planets bring in massive amounts of karma, karmic stories, ancestral stories. Some of the things that you're doing right at this moment, you're doing them because someone in your lineage did them. That is the truth of the matter. That is what I see in charts over and over again. So we are products of the energies that have come before. And that can come either from past life, if you believe in them. It can come from our soul's story. It can come from our bloodline through our genetics. I don't believe that we just have our appearance or even medical things, as they're seeing now, come through genetics, with a genetic storyline, we'll say. Also, belief systems, which I believe karma is actually a belief system. We believe things to be a certain way, whether we realize it or not. Sometimes it's unconscious, sometimes it's conscious, but we have this belief, and so life creates around this belief. And often life comes in to help us soften beliefs, which is one of the stories of balancing karma. But in any case, this month, these personal planets are coming to square these heavy hitters of the zodiac with karma and authority and transformation. And that can bring conflict. But you see, I'm smiling about it because sometimes it's conflict and pressure that we need to actually take action on something. So, or to just like crack open the shell of experience. So the energies that are coming in have very much to do with, for you, friends who are in the early and middle degree designation. So I'll put up a chart here and go in and show you the charts to show you a little bit more detail here in a second. But just to as a brief summary now, those of you who are early and middle degree placements, this energy of this, like these titans of karma, are more having to do with your place within the group, your friendships, your social networks, your place within a large organization, you know, your friends, your acquaintances, how you navigate within the group, finding your footing within the group, society telling you certain things, things like that. And then the middle and late degree placements are having these energies really show up in your work. And your work energy, for those of you who don't have jobs for whatever reason, if you're retired or you don't need to work for whatever reason, this has to do with your place out in the world. And there is a place for everyone out in the world, whether it's small, whether it's large, whether it's evolving, but your place out in the world, in your outer space, the way that you connect with others and connect with the world. So there are these storylines of your work and how you're doing it in the world and how your superiors are seeing you or how you're using your energy if you're a manager. Those kind of things are really coming into the forefront. Okay, so I'm going to bring in the charts because you know I'm an astrology teacher, and as such I like to go deeper than just the superficial explanations of what I think you'll be dealing with this month. I want to actually go into the details, which I have been, but I want to show you on the chart because some people are visual and they really need that as to why and where this is happening. And so I'm going to show you the charts now. I'll give you some more pieces that will be relevant for your month. Okay, so now I'm going to show you in the chart the things that I talked about so you can get the visual on them. And for those of you who are astrology students, you can understand how this looks visually. Also, I'm going to give you some more pieces of things that may come up for you this month. Many of the things I talk about could be true for all of you, and I will say when that is true. But there are going to be times when we will break it up into early, middle, and late degree, so let's see where you are at in that. Early Pisces are basically our February born or 0 to 9 degrees. Middle degree around March 1st through 10th or 10 to 19. Late degree around March 11th through the rest of the sign or 20 to 29 degrees. If you have a Pisces moon or Pisces rising, then this report is for you equally. I always recommend that you watch at least the report for your rising sign and your sun sign. Watch at least for your rising sign and your sun sign, because they each represent windows out of the house of your experience that have different views. They could have different views unless your rising and your sun is the same. Whatever's happening out of each of those windows of that house that you're living in, which is your being, the things happening out those windows will be equally as true. So the sun report and then the rising report and then even the moon report will give you different viewpoints that are all true at the same time. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to give you the visual on is that all early, middle, and late degree placements have the 7th houses and 8th houses full. 7th and 8th houses are those partnership houses that we referred to, and here is where that opposition with Uranus in that, house of self-sufficiency and your self-esteem will happen. So as these planets move to 5 degrees of Scorpio, they'll lock into mathematical combination with that Uranus and bring those things we talked about. And this is true for all early, middle, and late degree placements. Okay, so you see early is full with the 7th house and 8th house. Middle is full and late is also full. Something else I wanted to show you, and this is why I bother telling you early, middle, and late degree placements, and why I try to show this to you, is that the charts look different. Like, yes, the 7th and 8th houses are full. So if we were just not separating out into early, middle, and late, and we're keeping things simple, which I never do because I'm an astrology teacher and it's not as much fun for me. But you could say that the 7th and 8th houses of partnership are full, so that Pisces energies are going to have those experiences brought into the forefront, and that's true. But each of these have different personalities. All of these planets have personalities, and when they gather in a place, it's like a party or a gathering. And as the different personalities breeze through the signs, they bring different things with them. But you can see, like, in the beginning of the month, the sun is still in the 7th house, but just getting close to going into the 8th house for early. But then you see how it drops back for middle. So it has longer. It's going to take longer for the sun to get into the 8th house. And then it drops back even further for late. So you're going to, when you get back to the late degree placements, you have the sun still in the 7th house for several weeks into October, whereas for the early degree placements, that is shifting out early in the month. So all the experiences are staggered when you're in that late degree designation. And obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I have late degree placements for my sun and moon, which is how I started figuring this out. Okay, so the other thing we talked about is how the sun, I'm using the early degree, I'm talking about everyone here, the sun is going to come and square these titans of karma. So as the sun gets to 13, then 14, then 20 degrees of Libra, you're going to have a succession of 3 different squares with the sun. And the sun is your vitality. The sun can be your relationships with male energies in and outside of you. Again, it doesn't have to be a male person. It's just a male energy. Sometimes there are women who have a dominant male energy, and it could come through that way, and vice versa. But conflicts with these karma titans are definitely going to happen, making you question yourself. This is for all of you, early, middle, and late, making you feel a little bit unsure and having to clear up those conflicts in order to move forward. And then I also talked about how they're in the 11th house for early degree. Now for the middle, they're kind of shifting over. So the 11th house is being accentuated, but then for the late degree placements, those aspects are more in the 10th house. You may get some whispers in the 11th here, but it's more focused in the 10th house. So the late degree people, you have this more on your work out in the world. And then the middle, and also some of you middle degree placements have that there. And then you early degree placements, this is more focused on the 11th house, which has to do with your place in the group, your place in social media, your friendships, your acquaintances, things like that. Something we didn't talk about in the earlier part is Jupiter. We're tracking Jupiter here. So for early degree placements, you've had a long run, almost a year now, of Jupiter expanding the 10th house. We'll talk about what that means in a second. Middle degree placements, you've had some dancing around. When Jupiter had moved forward, it got into your 10th house. Then when it went retrograde, it was back in the 9th house, and now it's going to move to the 10th house. By December into January, you early people are going to have Jupiter be crossing into your 11th house. But you middle degree placements are going to have more time with it in the 10th house. And then late degree placements, you could have quite a bit longer, many months of Jupiter still in the 9th house, depending on your exact placement, before it gets to the 10th house. So you haven't received a lot of the blessings of the 10th house expansion yet. 10th house expansion with Jupiter looks like this: expanding your work, expanding your, income, starting businesses, planting seeds to start businesses, making lateral movements that feel more fulfilling. Jupiter tends to amplify experiences, so it could have been bringing up more challenges with work in order for you to see the issues so that you could resolve them. But it can also bring in these awesome blessings through getting the job you want, any kind of advancement, recognition, acknowledgement, raises, things like that. For those of you who don't work, this can be just something you're doing out in the world, a project that you don't have to make money for, you're being known, your recognition, or your relationship with father or your masculine side. The energy of Saturn, which rules this 10th house, very much has the energy of father and So coming to terms with your father figures and issues with your father figures is very much part of the picture with this. For the middle and late degree placements, where you've still had more influence of Jupiter in the 9th house, and for your late degree placements where Jupiter is going to be there for quite a while longer in the 9th house expansion of Jupiter is very exciting too, because 9th house is ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter in its own sign, in its own house, is very extra benevolent. So expansion of publishing, teaching, learning, travel opportunities, studies, different countries, different cultures, different languages, international travel, international business, speaking, anything involving your church or spiritual studies and your philosophies. Many people go on learning or teaching benders when Jupiter is in the 9th house, or they start studying something or go deeper into studying something, or start writing a book, or publications or publishing starts to come more in the forefront. So you late degree friends, even though your 10th house hasn't really been accentuated by this Jupiter yet, if your work is in the 9th house, then you'll, any of these things I just described, then you'll actually have an even longer stretch of Jupiter expansion for your work, because it was expanding your work through the 9th house before it even got to the house of your actual work. So hopefully you'll be seeing blessings come through there. One of the long-term storylines that Pisces is going through now has to do with the movement of Chiron and or Neptune in the 1st house. So you can see early degree people, you have Chiron and Neptune there. Middle degree, you have Chiron and Neptune there. And late degree, you don't have Neptune there yet, but you have Chiron. And the 1st house is like the early childhood house. And Chiron is the wounded healer. It shows us the places where wounds, our own wounds, and of course our ancestral lines that we're still working with, are affecting us. So really developing your self-esteem to know that you're worthy, to know that your work or your art or the things you want to bring out are worthy, taking some time to do some sturdying of your foundation is really what's being called for here. And this is in direct relationship to everything with the work sector too, because you'll get paid more when you feel more certain about yourself. You'll feel, when you feel good about your work, like you deserve to get paid, you can have jobs that you want more. So there's these ongoing themes that the more you can shore up those spaces, the more you can advance in the world. I also see the potentials of writing and speaking coming through in a big way for all Pisces placements, for different reasons for each of the placements, but feeling like you have to have a voice, and finding your voice and sharing your voice looks like a major theme that is happening in the short term and the long term. So overall, reminders, try to get your big things done and your things pushed out in the first 10 to 12 days or so of the month. Then you start to move into the shell, move into the cave, start to go inwards and backwards, deep into emotion with the Mercury retrograde, deep into tying up loose ends and preparing for the next big push out. As the planets are moving through the Libra placements, there is a little bit of awkwardness as they make an awkward angle with your Pisces placements, but most of that is done in the early part of the month, and as the planets move into Scorpio, they make sweet aspects with your placements. Trine is the best aspect in astrology, so you have lots of kisses from Scorpio for October and into November. So definitely go to AnnieHelpsYou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter, which will give you access a month ahead to a written version of the general transit so that you have those dates and all that information for your planning. Definitely, if you're interested in learning more about astrology, you can check out my Astrology Basics and Beyond course. And if you want to go deeper, if you think I go into details in the videos, you should see my Astrology Apprenticeship program. So you can see more about that and my other vocational assistance, including a Creating Successful Online Business course. You can check all of that out at anniehelpsyou.com. Definitely go to my husband's website, BR Newman, which is IamHelios, IamHelios.com. And definitely pick up my book, Radical Prayer. Transform your life in the world in 28 days. You can go to radicalprayerbook.com or search for Radical Prayer and Annie Botticelli on Amazon. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month.